Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Have a seat.
Thank you, sir.
So, Akshay.
Yes, sir.
So, as I see that you belong to Hyderabad, Telangana.
Sir, I was born
there.
Yes.
Right now, at where are you now?
Sir, I live in Raipur. In
Raipur, Chhattisgarh. So, you have done your BTech Mechanical Engineering, and that is your optional also
Yes, sir.
from NIT Raipur. Okay. And you are fond of essay writing, badminton,
Yes.
playing and following badminton, football, quiz competition. And then 2019 you also went up to the level of interview
Yes.
for the civil services. What were the marks which you obtained in interview?
Sir, I got 179.
175.
Sir,
Okay.
179.
175. When is your interview fixed?
Sir, it's on 11th May.
11th May. Okay. Oh, all right. So let me start with this particular thing, that quiz you are fond of. Can you tell me the history why it was named as quiz?
Sorry, sir.
You're not there. Why? How this acquired its name, quiz? So you can go back and study that. Why this was named as quiz? It was a bet, between a boy and his friends, and that how fast a word can be, gets into circulation. So he wrote just an random word, quiz, on every wall, and it became the talking point of the town, and that is how it required the word, quiz.
Right.
So since you have written quiz,
Yes.
so there may be a question asked as to how it has acquired its name. All right. So you are a mechanical engineer. Now tell me, recently the minister, the surface transport minister, he went to parliament in a particular vehicle. Do you recall what was so special about that vehicle?
Sir, it was an electric vehicle.
Okay. So what is the future fuel of this country ultimately, or the world?
Sir, when electricity which is generated possibly more from renewable energy can be the future fuel.
Why is it that there is not so much of popularity still in this country on electric vehicles?
Sir, cost is one reason, particularly because the battery technology is expensive. Electric vehicles are more expensive as of now. Another reason, sir, is the range. Electric vehicles have a limited range as compared to the internal combustion engine vehicles, and the availability of charging infrastructure is also somewhat limited.
Okay. And what are the constraints in the respect of the hydrogen vehicle, powered vehicle?
Sir, one is related to fuel storage, because hydrogen requires bulky and large fuel storage tanks. Another, sir, is related to safety, because hydrogen can be ignited by stray sparks. So ensuring that the flammability temperature is not exceeded is another constraint for hydrogen.
Hydrogen is lighter than helium.
Yes, sir.
But why is it that in the balloons also, which are sold in market, which can rise, which can go up in the air, why hydrogen is not filled and helium is filled?
Sir, I'm not sure. Maybe it's related to the colors and the excited state of helium.
No, it's the same thing, because the reason which you just now said, it is combustible, and therefore hydrogen is not filled in that. Why is it that the vehicles, if move at a very high speed, so they leave the ground for a few moments and then again come back? What is the basic principle which actually leads it to lifting in the air if they move at a very high speed? You must have seen, they leave the ground and then come out. What is the reason?
Sorry, sir.
Any physics principle? You are a mechanical engineer, you would be knowing that principle.
So
it's one of the most important principles.
So maybe there's a lift force which acts.
Yeah, so lift force, why does it happen? Who discovered this particular thing? Then name it. Can you name that person?
Sir, Archimedes discovered buoyancy.
It was Bernoulli's principle. Yeah, that is how a plane flies. Okay, so now tell me, you are fond of essay writing. Okay.
Yes.
So essay was also one of the papers in your mains also.
Yes.
What was the topic on which you wrote the essay?
Sir, one was about women, how the hand that rocks the cradle is also the hand that rules the world. And the other, sir, was about how the philosophy of materialism is like a chimera, which is
Okay.
not real.
Okay. So what's your idea about, supposing you are posted as collector, what steps will you take to ensure that there is a gender sensitization? Because generally, you know, the males, they do not give the more important jobs. It happens even at a senior levels. What steps will you take that gender sensitization is there and also women empowerment take place?
Sir, I'll work with the members of my team and identify the areas which require most improvement. Particularly, sir, when it comes to gender sensitization, I will ensure that there is more frequent training, more workshops, role play exercises, so that they are more sensitive. Another thing I will do, sir, is ensure that the women who are already in the department receive greater attention because they can serve as role models for other women to enter the department. And sir, if there is a case where, for example, a lady tries to avail of a public service but is not allowed to or is denied, then I will ensure action is taken and publicized so that in the future the officials are uh, aware of the need to act swiftly.
Okay. My last question to you is that the public service delivery, you know,
Yes,
so there is a term which we normally use, cradle to grave. Now, cradle to grave, the government is always, you know, attached to a family.
yes.
So can you give me why it is called cradle to grave? The public service delivery, you know, which takes place at every step, one needs the government.
Yes.
So why cradle to grave? Can you give example?
Sir, when someone is born, then
Okay.
one person requires a birth certificate.
Yes, correct.
Then for the child, for the nutrition of the child, then one has to avail of the National Food Security Act's provisions for immunization. And sir, then throughout the stages of a person's life, from education to employment to availing of public utilities, the government is needed. And sir, when it comes the grave, then uh, uh, when a person dies, then the family has to apply for a death certificate, and that same is recorded by the government.
ICT was used for the first time in a government department to make the life of the citizen simpler. Can you give one instance of where the life of the citizen became very, very easier in respect of one public service delivery through the use of ICT? Not very old.
So tax payment online, filing tax returns online.
Okay, that was definitely, but that was the most important public service, which is even the poorest of the person, you know, he requires that service.
So direct benefits transfer.
Direct benefit transfer is a transfer into his account, something which, you know, everyone, if you have to travel, what is that thing which you have to purchase? A railway ticket. So this particular thing was used in the railway ticket reservation for the first time.
Yes.
Can you tell me the underlying process, how this was simplified with the help of ICT? The process was simplified. Earlier, you had to travel to the railway station and stand in a queue and fill up a physical form and then pay in cash, then get the ticket and come back. Now everything is done through the laptop.
Yes.
What was that process by which this was curtailed, simplified, which made the life of the citizen very easier?
Sir, I think it was re-engineering.
Yes, absolutely right. Absolutely correct. It was business process re-engineering. And then it was later on adopted in many places. It was in passport, it was in airline reservation, it was in core banking, it was in e-commerce. So that BPR has come to acquire a very, very important place. And BPR and ICT, they have made the life of the citizen easy.
Suppose you are posted as an SP of a district.
Yes.
What will be your priorities and what you would like to do given the constraints without changing the policy laws? Don't say that I will do this within your area and within your competence. What changes you would like to make in the present system?
Sir, with those
1, 2, 3, like in
So
order of priority.
Yes. So the first priority would be effective maintenance of law and order, because those provide a sense of safety and security to citizens as well as businesses. The second priority, sir, would be to ensure effective investigation of crime, because that acts as a deterrent and again it increases safety. The third thing, sir, would be, in order to achieve the first two, it's important to make the police more responsive to citizens. So, sir, I would like to ensure that their mindset also changes, and something as simple as filing an FIR on time, investigation within time-bound limits, their mindset is changed so that they accomplish all those.
That's all.
Yes.
Any other priority? Women, children, weaker sections,
Yes.
underprivileged.
Yes. So, yes. When it comes to effective investigation of cases, sir, effective investigation of cases involving.
When you say effective investigation, what does it mean?
Sir, I mean investigation within a time-bound limit, and investigation of such a quality that it stands up in the court. If this is done, then
So how you will achieve it?
Sir, one way is training. If the police personnel who are tasked with investigation are better trained, then the quality of the investigation they conduct will be better. Another thing, sir, is to ensure that they are a bit more sensitized, because in some cases they may have the requisite skills to investigate, but because
Okay, you have provided the training.
yes,
Then next, what else can be done for effective investigation?
sir, better coordination with the judiciary also.
No, investigation you don't require coordination with judiciary.
Sir, utilizing the funds received for forensic sciences.
Funds. Forensic, you said forensic?
Yes, sir.
Good. Then what else?
So, seeking asking for permission to utilize the assistance of experts in some areas like cybercrime, where the police may not have that expertise at present.
There is always cyber crime unit, the police.
Yes.
What else can be done for better investigation?
Sir, forming dedicated teams for investigations.
Any other tools? Any other tools?
Sorry, sir, I'm not able to think.
There are many. Tell me, what will be the criteria? How you will arrive at the decision that this is good investigation?
Sir, one criteria will be time, the duration it takes to investigate compared to the standard time.
Okay.
And sir, another will be whether it stands up to legal scrutiny or not.
Yes, exactly. So what is that?
Sorry, sir, I'm not able to recall that.
Suppose it doesn't result in conviction, then it is good investigation or poor investigation?
So then it is poor investigation.
So any guess actually what is our conviction ratio in India? It's a good, poor, average?
So as far as I know, it is poor.
Poor. Why it is poor?
Sir,
You see, in the last decade, we have got actually more and more modern tools to support, to help the investigation, the IO. But still, actually, our track record is same. What are the reasons?
sir, one reason is that there is a shortage of personnel in the police.
That you will be giving when you will become SP.
Yes.
Here you give something else. Shortage of manpower is given actually when you become part of the system.
Yes. Sir, this the tools may be available, but the willingness to use them, and another, sir, is
Yes, willingness to use them.
Sir, another is sensitization also, because in some cases, particularly if the victim is from the underprivileged sections of society, then the police personnel may not be sufficiently sensitive.
Okay, we leave it. Now tell me the last question. How you will evaluate the role of press in India in the last few years?
Sir, in the last few years, in some ways, they have played a positive role. They have increased the awareness of citizens regarding the performance of the government. During the COVID crisis, they helped disseminate public health information, which helped save lives. However, in some other ways, the media's performance has been found lacking. They have been accused of impartiality, sensationalization of news.
Partiality.
Impartial.
Partial.
Yes, sir, partial. Sensationalization of the news has taken place in some cases. So, because of those factors, the ability of the media to act as an independent watchdog has been questioned.
It is good for the democracy or bad?
Sir, it is bad if the media does not meet certain expectations as an independent body.
And the role of social media?
So, social media too has played a mixed role, because it has been helpful in democratizing discourse, in spreading information more widely. But it has also resulted in spread of misinformation that has affected outcomes of elections. In some cases, it has even led to certain crimes like lynchings. So,
what should be done?
Sir, recently regulation was introduced for social media intermediaries to ensure that they.
So it should be regulated.
Yes, sir.
Akshay, from tech, you are moving to civil services.
Yes.
Why do you think you are suitable for civil services? 3 points. 1, 2, 3.
Well, I have the requisite dedication to perform and deliver in the civil services. And another reason is that civil services require perseverance to achieve one's outcomes. And the third reason is that in the civil services, empathy for the weaker sections is needed, as they are more dependent on the government for their empowerment. I believe I have that.
And what are the 3 negatives which you feel you lack?
Ma'am, one negative is that sometimes I take a little time to open up to people. Sorry, ma'am, I'm not able to think of any other negatives.
That's it. Otherwise, you perfectly fit the frame. Yeah? Okay. The health of the economy is not so sound, yet the markets are booming. What could be the reason or the reasons? What is the correlation?
And there's greater optimism regarding the growth of certain sectors. For example, the information technology sector, which has seen a boom. In addition to this, the pharmaceutical sector has also been performing well. And man, I think one reason for the optimism in the stock markets is the budget for this year promised a greater outlay on capital investment that is expected to have a multiplier effect on the economy. So investors probably feel that in the future the stock market will give better returns.
But as the Ukraine problem started, there were a lot of fluctuations, dip, and then it stabilized. So that does not impact our economy closer home.
Ma'am, it does impact because
oil prices are increasing every day.
Yes,
So,
ma'am, certainly that affected the stock markets initially, but I think later, as the conflict has continued, maybe investors have also become more pragmatic. And another reason, ma'am, could be that crude oil prices are rising, but now the government is trying to shore up supply by diversifying the nations which it imports from. So maybe that stability is also one reason investors are now feeling secure.
and that is why the government has the policy of not voting, abstaining, and also not going out even when the humanitarian crisis is crying for help.
Ma'am, as far as the humanitarian aspects are concerned, I believe the government has provided humanitarian aid. And ma'am, when it comes to the
I'm particularly talking in case of Russia, Ukraine.
yes, ma'am. Ma'am, when it comes to the abstentions on that issue, then I think the government has adopted a pragmatic stand. It is true that there is a humanitarian crisis, but on the other hand, the government also has to take into account long-term interests stemming from the ties with Russia. And I think, man, when it comes to the humanitarian aspect, India has called for an end to violence and tried to further this through negotiations with Russia and with Ukraine.
So you think if tomorrow China transgresses into our territory, we will have no friends left? We do not interfere in bilateral disputes and our interest first. So who will come to our help? Who are our friends?
Ma'am, I believe some of the Western nations would come to our,
Like
and the US, for example.
US has already warned us that if we buy energy, petrol from Russia on the ruble rate, it can have consequences. They're also pragmatic. So, who are our friends around us? Whom do you see as a friend?
Ma'am, the US has certainly issued a warning, but I still feel that in the event of a crisis, it will be the US that could help because their interest also relates to the expansion of Chinese power, which they oppose.
So, it is their interest to contain China
yes.
and put the gun on our shoulders. But they are really not our friends in that sense. Okay, we'll move on to your quiz. Who's the President of India?
Ma'am, it is Mr. Ramnath Kovind.
Vice President?
Ma'am, it is Mr. M. Venkaiah Naidu.
The simultaneous position which he holds?
Ma'am, he's the chairperson of the Rajya Sabha.
Okay. Who's the Lok Sabha Speaker?
Ma'am, it is Mr. Om Birla.
Okay. Which is the hardest element?
Sorry, ma'am.
Darren. How many continents are there?
Ma'am, there are 7 continents.
Can you name them?
Ma'am, they are Asia, Africa, Europe, Antarctica, North America, and South America.
Okay. Australia we don't count because there's a little controversy on that. Okay. And after how many years is the Kumbh held?
Sorry, ma'am?
After how many years is the Kumbh Mela held?
Ma'am, the Kumbh is held after 12 years.
Okay. At which place?
Ma'am, there are 4 locations: Allahabad, Nasik. Sorry, ma'am, I'm not able to recall.
So it is at an interval of 4 years, it is shifts from one place to the other place.
Yes.
So answer is right, 12 years, but at the interval of every 4 years, it is held.
Yes.
Okay.
Every 3 years.
Yeah, 3 4s are 12. Sorry, every 3 years at 4 different places. Yeah, that is it. I think that's it. Thank you.
Akshay, what is the meaning of your name?
Sir, it means something that is indestructible.
Kshat.
Akshay.
Kshat. Kshatriya Siddha. Akshay.
And you have put your Gmail as Sanjren, that is your parents' name.
Yes.
Okay. Now, there is a report, UN report, which is titled Our Common Future. What is this report about and who is the author?
So this report is about sustainable development. It deals with the need to utilize the resources of the earth wisely so that future generations can also benefit. And it is important, sir, in the context of the more resource intensive and materialistic lifestyle in some of the nations.
What is the name of the commission?
Sir, it was the Grow Harlem Brundtland Commission.
Okay, and that is the name by name, but what is the official name of the commission?
Sorry, sir.
Okay. World Commission on Development and Environment.
Thank you.
Now, what is sustainable development?
So it is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the needs of the future generations. And sustainable development relies on certain modes like circular economy that will reduce the utilization of the virgin raw resources, and it will simultaneously enable both the developing and developed nations to meet the needs of their citizens, meet needs and aspirations of their citizens.
So, who is the, or what is the cause behind such a need? Why this, requirement arose?
Sir, one reason is that the resource footprint of humanity has increased considerably, and the resources that the earth presently has may not be sufficient to support that. Another reason, sir, is in the course of the resource intensive lifestyle, climate change has accelerated, and that has led to undesirable effects such as frequent natural disasters, global warming.
Yeah, but why this need arose actually? This need arose because of industrial revolution followed by consumerism.
Yes.
That means excessive use of natural resources,
Yes.
contamination, all that. Have you heard the name called Upanishad?
Sorry, sir.
Upanishad.
Yes, sir.
What is Upanishad?
Sir, these are texts. These are texts from ancient India, and they are philosophical. They are philosophical in nature. So they examine the relationship between God, matter, and soul.
How many Upanishads are there?
Sorry, sir. I don't know.
Can you name one or two Upanishads?
Sir, Maha Upanishad is one.
What?
Sir, Maha Upanishad. Sir, Mundaka Upanishad.
Mundak, yes, Mundak Upanishad. There are 108 of them. In your personal life, what are the four most important values that you accord highest priority?
Sir, integrity is one of them because I feel it's necessary to be honest in all aspects of one's life. And
You
others,
observe that principle in your personal life?
yes. Sir, another is dedication because I feel significant improvement in one's professional life and professional outcomes, as well as in one's personal relationships, only occurs when there's dedication towards achieving a goal. And so the third is empathy because I think, sir, empathy is necessary in order to empathize with those who are not as privileged and to try to help bridge that gap. Loyalty is the fourth one, sir, because loyalty helps earn the respect of others. It helps create friendships that endure.
But see, loyalty and integrity can go against each other. In Indian politics, there are a lot of people who want loyalty, and that loyalty is associated with, in fact, corruption to a great extent.
Yes. Sir, in that case, I think it is necessary to accord higher priority to integrity because if a person is in politics and is occupying a public office, then the most important thing is to uphold public interest through every action. So rather than being loyal to, say, one's political superior, it's more important to display integrity and refuse to be part of such activities.
For example, you are posted as, say, in the police, Director General of Police in some state, okay? Now, you have to select 5-6 important people who will be working directly under your supervision to look after the law and order situation. what importance? You will give importance to loyalty or you will give importance to integrity there?
Sir,
The person who is committed to integrity may not obey your instructions entirely.
Sir, in this case, I think I will then still choose integrity, because that person may not obey the instructions fully. At the same time, sir, his integrity is a value that will be observed by the public in general, because since he is acting with integrity, the public will also feel that greater confidence in his ability to manage the law and order situation. So given the direct correlation between visibility of his actions and integrity, I would choose integrity.
Okay. Now, my last question to you is, what is your vision of India from 15 years from now? Today we are in 22, say 37. What you would like India to be like?
Sir, I would like India to be an economically prosperous country, having achieved the goal of, say, $7 trillion economy. Another,
7 trillion.
yes.
Okay.
Sir, another thing I would like is an inclusive India where the benefits of economic growth accrue to all sections and castes in society. A third thing I would like, sir, is greater levels of integrity in public life, because any person occupying a public position acts as a role model. So not only does integrity in public life set a good example, but it also ensures better delivery of services to the citizen and better implementation of schemes. So that is one thing I would like.
So you mean to say corruption free in
Yes.
that sense? Okay.
Yes.
So these are your visions.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Akshay. Thank you.
Akshay, if I don't have very strong patriotic sentiments, which country would be the best country to live in?
Sir, maybe a Western European country, because they are more.
Which one?
Sir, a Western European country.
Western European countries. And why?
Sir, the reason is that they are more liberal regarding the idea of patriotism, and in those countries, there's more space for that kind of dissent, which is related to patriotism. So that country.
No, what I said is that I am not very patriotic about India. Now, if I want to live in a country, which one would you recommend?
Sir, like I said, a Western European country.
Western European countries. Okay, fine. Now, can you tell me something about International Space Station?
So, International Space Station is the largest man-made structure in space. It orbits at around 400 kilometers above the Earth's surface, and it is a collaboration between the space agencies of 5 nations, including the USA and Russia. Here, sir, astronauts live, perform certain experiments like microgravity experiments, and they go perform spacewalks.
And you know how big is that?
So
How large?
So the exact dimension?
Not exact, but approximate.
Sorry, sir, I don't.
And India claims to be a strong space power. And our technologies are good in space technology. Why we didn't participate?
So probably at that time, India's space program was not that developed, or maybe the financial commitments could not be borne.
Okay. Or maybe alignment with those countries,
Yes.
especially from defense point of view,
Yes.
a bit difficult. What do you think about space tourism? There is a lot of talk about space tourism. You think it is a sustainable alternatives?
Sir, it has emerged as an option because nowadays even private space companies are offering such flights to space tourists. So maybe, sir, it is an way of generating revenue from space, but sustainability, sir, will be an issue because of the emissions resulting from such flights. Maybe there's a need to
But
explore.
do you think it will add to good economic benefit, economic activity?
Yes, sir. It could add to economic activity because it will incentivize more companies to invest in the space sector. And
Okay. My final question, we are completing 75 years of independence.
yes,
Can you assess how India has benefited or rather used science and technology in its development?
sir, India has used science and technology productively in many ways. For example, the Green Revolution for food security. India has also utilized the space program in order to improve telecommunications, telemedicine, tele-education, and disaster management. Sir, India has innovated in the field of science, nuclear science and technology, to set up nuclear power as a partial alternative to thermal power in some ways. And sir, in science and technology, there's the vaccine development and India's emergence as a pharmaceutical producing hub, generic medicine manufacturing hub.
So you think India did very good?
Sir, in some of the fields, India did well. In others, there's need for improvement.
What is the best thing science teaches us? Besides all these product related technologies?
Sir, I think the best thing is it teaches a person to take risks, because in science there's rarely a guarantee that investment of resources leads to the desired outcome. Nevertheless, people take risks. Scientists may spend decades to innovate and come up with a useful product or technology. So the willingness to take risks is the best thing.
Willing to take risks doesn't come from science.
Yes.
The objectivity, the objective decision making, objective analysis, rational decision making, these are some of things we get from science. Thank you.
Okay, so Akshay, we will take you back
Yes.
to the waiting room for a
Yes.
few moments.
Yes.
We'll call you again. All right.
Yes.
Have a seat.
So thank you.
So Akshay, is 11th is your interview. The last interview, as you said, that you obtained 175 marks. 11th May.
Sir, 179.
179. Okay. So Akshay, how do you think you performed at this particular mock interview?
Sir, not very well.
Not very well. Okay. Which are the areas where you feel that perhaps you could have given a better answer, or some more knowledge would have been?
Sir, this improving the functioning of the police, the conviction rate, some optional related questions. Sir.
Okay. So let me say at the outset, Akshay, you are very good. You have almost all the good qualities. I'll narrate them one by one, and I will point out also what exactly is the area where you need to improve upon slightly.
Yes.
Your delivery is fine.
Yes.
Only thing that we perhaps would like to see is more enthusiasm, more energy on your face,
Yes.
because your knowledge is good. You know the answer. You hold back, pause, and come out, which is a fine, absolutely good thing. One should always think and then come out with the answer. So your knowledge is good. Your critically examine, analytically examine every issue is also good. You were able to look at both the sides, the pros and cons of a particular subject or topic or issue. So therefore, analytical powers are there. Mentally, you were alert. You were able to grasp the question in most of the cases, and one could see that you were not trying to bluff at any occasion. You were coming out with right answers and complete answers also. And we could see that otherwise your skills, communication skills were also very good, fairly good. Just one thing, as I said, bring a more, kind of enthusiasm, smile, occasional smile would do you a lot of good.
Yes.
And you have full capability of ultimately making it with good score. 179 is not a bad score, it's a good score, but you can definitely reach somewhere around 200 also. Now coming to specific questions which were asked to you, let me discuss them one by one, and then we will, okay, right. So the questions regarding Hyderabad, Telangana will definitely come, and besides that, right now you are in which place?
Sir, in Raipur.
Raipur. So Raipur and Chhattisgarh also. So the geography, the history, the culture,
Yes.
the main industries, the agricultural production, the important projects, important institutions,
Yes.
all these things. What are the problems, social problems and other problems? Learn them by heart. 11th May, you have a lot of time.
Yes.
So you can definitely, brush up your knowledge about these two states. And then, of course, mechanical engineering, I asked a few questions. Some of them you were not able to answer. So some of them you came out with the right answer. For example, Nitin, the Gadkari coming to the Lok Sabha in a green vehicle, hydrogen green vehicle. And then the issue regarding the problem of electrical vehicles, also you came out with the right answers. Essay writing, you are fond of essay writing, so they may ask you exactly which are the essays you have written or you have read. And so go with one essay which you have read.
Yes.
Critically go through that, some famous author.
Yes.
So that if they ask you which is the essay that you have read recently, you can narrate that.
Yes.
And then you can narrate all the point. You can use that to your advantage.
Yes.
And in explaining that. So learn one particular essay. And badminton, of course, the sports, we did not ask you any question, but badminton, there are bound to be
Yes.
questions how India has fared at that and so on.
Yes.
And playing and following badminton, then football also.
Yes.
Quiz, I asked you that question. So quiz, how did it acquire its name?
Yes.
Just Google it and you will find out that it was as a result of a betting, between group of people, and one of the boys, he wrote something on all the balls, so on. Your preferences, your father is DG Police?
So he's DG Prisons.
DG Prisons, okay. He's from IPS, but he's DG Prisons.
Yes.
And your mother is in Additional Chief Secretary, in charge of which department?
Sir, Panchayati Raj and Rural Development.
So Panchayati Raj and Rural Development. So now, just from here, I will take this particular thing that you must know,
Yes.
not because your mother is looking after, but even otherwise, since you are aspiring for civil services, the entire Panchayati Raj system.
Yes.
First of all, which was that committee which recommended, Panchayati Raj system? Do you know that?
I think it was Balwant Rai.
So therefore, 73rd, 74th Amendment, then how does the Panchayati Raj system works in a district? It is a kind of a small government, a mini government.
Yes.
At Panchayat level, then Panchayat Samiti level, Zilla Parishad level. So who are the functionaries, government functionaries, and who are the non-officials? You must understand. And what are the major areas, which it looks after? The development it carries out in the villages, a payment of streets and culverts and all those, everything that comes under its fold. So ponds and so on. So you must know that. That is the important area. Similarly, urban areas also, the local bodies. What are their functions? What are they looking after?
Yes.
Then the role of the collector. What is the role of a collector? And what are the different roles which, under his hat? So one is the revenue function, law and order function, and third is the coordinating function. So between various departments. So you must, if it is, you have a lot of time, you'll be going back to Raipur.
Yes.
In the meanwhile. So visit a particular district in Raipur and understand how the panchayat functions, how the block functions, how the Zilla Parishad functions.
Yes.
And how the district officers, 1 or 2 district officers, you can always visit superintendent of police, you can always visit the Panchayati Raj, your mother is already there.
Yes.
So it will be a good idea to have a good knowledge about how things work in a district. Okay.
Yes.
Then disasters, the collector's role in disaster management, the collector's role in election, and then special programs which are being launched by the government in respect of various sections of the society: women, disadvantaged sector, scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, children, okay,
Yes.
and the senior citizens, and so on. So handicapped people. So those public policy schemes and programs, that also you should learn. Now, priorities of SP, you mentioned law and order, investigation, and also a responsive mindset. Okay, so there are in fact many priorities of Superintendent of Police. You can discuss with your father also to understand what are the policy, priorities of a Superintendent of Police.
Yes.
And many innovative things have also been done by the various police officers. For example, one police officer, he united the children who were taken away, abducted throughout the country. He was posted in Noida,
Yes.
so he is Ghaziabad. So he united almost 100 children back to their families on Diwali.
Oh.
So it was again a very innovative thing. So various jobs or various priorities are there with the Superintendent of Police.
Yes.
And then the criterion to for a good investigation. So that again is a topic, and all these things you will be able to get from your father also. And how you will evaluate the role of press in India. So that again you came out with an answer which was fair enough, and but at the same time the use of the forensic science, etc., the latest tools for investigation, that also you must by heart. And then markets are booming even though the economy isn't gone for a nosedive. So you said that that people's aspirations, people's expectations are that the IT sector is performing well and so on. So you slightly more read on into that, because that's a dichotomy. It's just a contradictory thing which is happening right now.
Yes.
The markets are indeed booming very high. And then of course the question was the book Our Common Future. So that is a United Nations report that is about sustainable development. So that again was a question, and so therefore climate change and environment will definitely one or two questions will be asked. So you must understand what are the different international level groups, committees which have been formed, IPCC and COP and RIO and so on, which are the different, and India's stand in that. Okay, what is India's stand? So Narendra Modi went to Paris and he had a stand and so on. What the development countries say, regarding, and whether they have actually financed anything, for bringing down the ecological, the degradation which is happening. The values which are required in personal life. So you mentioned integrity and honesty, isn't it? And empathy also.
Yes.
So a question may logically arise is
Loyalty.
And loyalty also. So loyalty was a slightly, it can cut both ways. So where you are supposed to be neutral, a civil servant particularly, by performing duties as civil servant. Your loyalty is only to the constitution and the law, and not to any particular person. And therefore that you must understand, you must follow the exactly what is prescribed in law. Even if your political master says something, while giving answer before the board, you see, you have to be very, very correct in your approach. Okay, so anything wrong, you will say no. You see, so that's it. And one thing which may be asked, which normally, when you said empathy, now there are similarly sounding two other words, sympathy and compassion. You sometime may be asked that what is the difference between compassion, sympathy and empathy? So you have to understand that. Then which country will be the best country to live in? You indicated that it is the Western Europe, isn't it? Which is fine, but only thing you have to justify it in terms of facts and figures. What are the the living conditions there, the quality of life?
But it also implies that you don't want to live in India.
No, but that he had said. He had said, supposing you are not patriotic.
No, but you must justify
Why?
why not USA?
Yeah.
Why not Japan or something?
Yeah. You have to justify the reason, and that can be only through facts and figures. If you have your fingertips. Then how large is the International Space Station? That again was a question. you can study that thing.
Just
And
like a football field.
football field, correct.
Something else.
Then space tourism and 75 years of independence, and how the science and technology has been used
Yes.
in India. So that again, why science and why science is useful, on account of what reasons.
Even the vision of India, could have given.
Yes.
more.
One thing I would like to suggest to you, that you go and read a book which is called 70 Policies That Shaped India's. It's a beautiful book, a very thin book. Every public policy which was launched in India, right from independence till today, till demonetization and GST and all these things, it gives one paragraph about all those policies, the nationalization of bank, nationalization of ONGC. And one question which logically will arise is about privatization, the efforts of the government towards privatization and the monetization of the assets. So that again is definitely a topic on which you may be asked questions. International situation, India and its relations with its neighbors. You see, because we could not cover everything in this particular mock interview, but just to give you feedback that you may require to have a first-hand knowledge about India and its neighbors.
Yes.
And the international scene insofar as the Russia and United States and China and all the other countries. So you have a first-hand knowledge, and also have a good understanding of how the United Nations, the various institutions function. So WTO and UNESCO and GATT and WHO. So there are a plethora of institutions, how they function. And because nowadays public policy is getting influenced by the international institutions of United Nations.
Yes.
No nation can claim to have a policy of its own. It is getting influenced by this. COVID-19, the policy was virtually influenced by the WHO.
Yes.
Then they may ask you whether the steps taken by the government in recent past during COVID-19, do you think, would you agree to that? If you look into the past, do you think what was done was right? Sudden lockdown, and do you think the human liberties are now being curtailed more and more because of the COVID-19? Many things are happening which are monitoring the movement of the people, with the Arogya Setu and all those things.
Yes.
Use of e-governance during the COVID times, whether we are leading to a contactless world.
Yes.
All these things, you see. So you have this particular thing. Do you have any questions to ask?
Sir, on the Russia-Ukraine crisis, how to tackle the questions on India's stand, the
Yeah.
abstention?
Gauri Shankar ji batayenge.
You see, the today's world it is not a world of alliances, it's a world of issues.
Yes.
On the one issue, for example, Quad, we are aligned with western part of the world. But our interest with Russia is multifold. Firstly, Russia has helped us in time of need, particularly on the question of J&K, war with Pakistan. Our arms supply, approximately 60% is still from Russia. States parts have to come from there. So we have to balance that.
Yes.
And this was an exercise in balancing. Now we have good relations with Ukraine as well, but Ukraine actually played in the hands of United States. It was more like playing in Biden's hand.
Yes.
That they were aspiring and pushing for NATO membership. Now there is a very clear-cut understanding in the world that you cannot go beyond a point when somebody else's national interest is hurt. For example, Soviet Union went to Cuba and put missiles there. That time America warned of a nuclear war. That was way back in '62.
Yes.
And today, if Russian Federation goes to Mexico and puts up nuclear missiles there, will America accept it? No way it will. Similarly, the Russians cannot accept NATO missiles in Ukraine. And that was a foolishness on the part of Ukraine to insist on membership of NATO and put NATO base there. They should have sought for security guarantees for their country. And that is why we require to balance this. And we very clearly said, Foreign Minister very clearly said that every country has right to buy oil wherever it is available in cheaper prices.
Yes.
How can they restrict us? So I think these restrictions are put by a country or a group. These are not UN sanctions.
Yes.
So UN sanctions we have to obey, but not sanctions by XYZ country.
Yes.
If tomorrow we have a problem with Sri Lanka and America is not happy and they start imposing sanctions on us, do we accept that? We cannot accept that.
Yes.
So I think we have to, the multilateral system has to be respected, but unilateral decisions by a country or a group of countries is actually against the basic norms of international.
And that is what has been the stand of India.
Yes.
And therefore, you will be literally following the official line of Government of India.
Yes.
And do not generally try to transgress that. In terms of interview, you have to generally follow the official line.
Yes.
If a question is asked about reservation, you will follow the official line.
Yes.
You will say, yes, it is required, frameworks of constitution. Similarly, if it is about corruption, don't start blaming the politician or the officers. In Russia-Ukraine thing also,
Yes.
the justification has been amply given by Gauri Shankarji, and that justifies the stand taken by India,
Yes.
that we did not speak against Russia
Yes.
because of the variety of reasons, which are in terms of the interests of India also. So that was the correct.
But maybe you can add on the high table that when the talks were held, India was not invited. Pakistan was there on the high table with Russia, but India was not invited.
Yes.
So maybe you cannot give your opinion, but just mention the fact that these are also, incidents which have happened, and India needs to take note of that.
That was Afghanistan
Yeah.
related.
So
Russia did not.
yeah. Even if it was not in Ukraine, that is an incident which is indicative of future, line which can hold. Read today's Hindu.
Yes.
A lot of foreign dignitaries, foreign ministers and others have been coming to India in the last week or 10 days. And the article indicates, I don't know how it can actually work, whether the settlement between Ukraine and Russia, can India be the main negotiator?
Yes.
Just have a look at that article.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you will do very well, and
Just keep some expression on your face. Sir.
Just smile.
Some smile,
You are-
some movement.
you are confident.
Otherwise, your
that,
knowledge is
knowledge is
Can I
absolutely
ask
fine.
you a question?
So
This transition is willing transition, or you are under some kind of a pressure that you must get into the civil service? Because this is your 4th attempt. It is very surprising. A bright person like you have to
he'll
take
make
it.
it. He'll
Huh?
make it.
No, he'll make it.
Yeah,
But I just
don't
want to
worry.
ask out of curiosity.
Ma'am, it is a willing transition.
It's a willing transition.
Yeah, yeah.
Why so late?
Ma'am, in the first 2 attempts, I made some mistakes due to which I didn't get the interview call at all, and that's why it took.
Yeah, don't worry. It is never
Otherwise,
too
you are
late.
very bright.
It is never too late.
Nothing should stop you. The only thing is you just need to put a spring in your step.
Yes.
Okay? All the best.
Absolutely fine. You are perfect. You can definitely do it. Just a smile on your face,
Yes.
and some of the areas which we have indicated to you.
Yes.
And believe me, this time you will make it.
Yes.
So have that confidence and then go.
Yes.
Yeah? You will be the future. Your parents also must be aspiring you to become a civil servant.
Yes.
Yeah. So you will be able to meet the expectations of your father and mother. You will do that.
Yes.
All the best to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
All the best.
Unacademy. Let's crack it.